Hey, scrappy people, it's Traci Reed here today, coming at you with day number 9 of my December. No, this is not day number 9. What am I even thinking? I think it's day number 11. I have lost all track of time. Anyway, day number 11 of my December daily, and you can see that I am foiling things. If you have watched over on Instagram, you'll know that I made the epiphany that things printed at office supply stores are printed on laser printers. So if you do not have a laser printer, you can still foil everything to your heart's content if you send them off to Office Depot to be printed. I used a laminator, not a mink machine, to get this result. And I'm not sure if it's because it's from Office Depot or what, but I do get a little bit of over foiling. I didn't love the way that center circle thing came out, so I'm just going to cut the star out of it, and I'm going to cut out the record as well. You can see that I was using the backside of one of my Advent video creations where it says we need a little Christmas right this very minute, and of course I hand stitched around the outside of that, so I needed a way to sort of cover it up without impeding the stitching. So I applied some vellum to the back side of it, and I did not glue it around the outside edge. I just glued in the center where the record was going to go. And so I created a little circular piece for the center of the record that had some gold foiling on it from my very first experimentation with foiling from my office supply store prints. And now I'm going to adhere the star, and I really like the way that came out. So what I'm doing for the other side is this year I decided to listen to each of the Christmas albums that had been released this year. So I've printed out all of the covers, and I have cut down cardstock to be a 1/2 inch wider on one side than each of the covers and 1/4 inch wider on the other side, because I'm going to create little pockets where I'm going to slip in my reviews, and I'm just using my scoreboard to score flaps so that they can wrap over, and this will also give dimension to the pocket. So I've got one for each side, top and bottom. Now I'm going to do one for the back side as well, and so you can see I'm just going to adhere the album cover to the front of it. And what I've done is I've created a little pocket for my review to slide in and out of. And I'm kind of measuring because I want to make sure that I get it right. So I'm going to create one of these for each one of the album covers. So just repeating the process here. And I'm going to have these open on the side like a real album cover would. I mean, obviously there's different options, but the ones that I think of are the ones that open on the side. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a little place to pull out each one of the reviews. There we go. So I've got them all adhered, and on the back I have just used red line tape, and what that's going to do is it's going to hold down the flaps as well as allow me to adhere them to the cardstock. And so I'm trying to decide how I want to put these down, and I don't want to exactly put them in a perfect row, because if I get it just a little bit off, it's going to drive me bonkers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger these just a little bit, and it's also going to give it a little bit more visual interest as well. I taped down my cardstock to the glass cutting board, and I'm using a ruler to align the top and the bottom pieces. And then I offset that middle album a little bit as well, and I'm going to offset these to the top and the bottom. I decided that with the very last one I put down, so I have to move this one up a little bit, which creates a little bit of tearing in the paper. Not a big deal. I'm going to cover it up with some stamping and no one will ever notice. So I will say that I did struggle a little bit with where do I go from here, because obviously there's a lot of red going on, and there is also a lot of just a lot going on, right? So what do I do? What do I add here that's not going to distract from, but it's also going to finish off this layout? Now you can see I have cut out all of these little pull tabs that I created in Photoshop, and then all my silhouette. So I've decided to pull out my stamps. These are all Catherine Pooler stamps, and I have this music themed stamp, and I'm going to use this for the majority of it. I did think about using the presents, and I do stamp them, but I just couldn't make them fit in a way that didn't feel cluttered to me. So I decide that since I'm terrible at stamping, I'm going to stamp on a piece of cardstock and adhere them like they are die cuts, because this will save me from messing up this layout that I have worked so long on to put together. And will just, it stresses me out less, which means I stamp better too. So you can see I've got a few different versions of each of these stamps, but I'm going to go with this one down here. This one's obviously the best. Again, like I said, this is why I stamped on a different piece of cardstock, so that if I messed it up, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So I'm gonna just hand fussy cut these out. I'm using the black Midnight ink and then the red Cranberry Fizz ink from Catherine Pooler that I've been using throughout this album. And so I'm trying to decide what to do with this red stamp as well, this red border stamp. It looks just like a candy cane, so it's perfect for this album, so I want to use that too. So I've got all these stamped, and I'm going to fussy cut them out. I do end up cutting off that stray music note on the right hand side, so I only ended up with 3. And I'm going to use this one and create like a little border to mimic the square albums pieces or square albums, but I do mess up this stamp. See, this is why I stamped on cardstock. I get all 3 of these down right, but the 4th one goes down a little bit wonky, and I decide to leave it because it's not incredibly wrong, like it doesn't go horribly wrong, but you can see it kind of missed the top piece, and that's because this page is so dimensional. It was hard to make sure that everything was contacting the background perfectly, and I thought about restamping, but I knew I would just mess it up and it would make me mad, so I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna go with it. I thought about covering it up with that, but I have different plans for it. And so I'm going to use pop dots on the back of these pieces to make them have a little bit more dimension and match the dimension in the album covers as well. So I'm going to get out the pop dots, and I'm going to also put this along the edge here. I cut it so that it looks like it's going underneath the album cover, because obviously once you got red line tape down, you can't really get red line tape back up. And then I stamped a few more of these little pieces that came on the stamp set as well, and I'm going to string them throughout the page to kind of create a little bit of cohesion between the album covers. And what it looks like is, it looks like that wire from the headphones is kind of going throughout the page. I'm going to add a couple more here in a minute after I decide that that's what I'm going to do, because I haven't decided that yet. And I'm also going to add some gold letters to the record side of the album, just to add a little bit more to it. You can see I'm counting letters here to make sure that I get everything in on the center. And I'm going to just put, I don't have any E's. I was going to put fave holiday albums, but I didn't have any E's, so I just put holiday albums. Now I am stamping a couple more of those to string throughout the layout. I'm going to have to fussy cut them out as well. And I'm going to put one here so it kind of looks like it's coming down from the words. And then I thought about adding a paper border along the edge of the layout, and I actually did end up putting one there, and I didn't like it, so I just, omitted that from the video because it didn't look good anyway. So I'm just going to put that down instead and call this good. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you aren't following me over on Instagram, I'm at Traci M. Reed. I'm doing an Advent series over there as well, so you get double the December daily content. And I will see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you.